Hello, I'm Mike. I'm an ex Hells Angel member. I was a member and started the Fresno charter, and I transferred to Santa Barbara to start them up, and then I transferred back to Fresno, and that's where I left in 2011. I'm chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chattin with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Mike Lynch. What's up, man?
How you doing, Bill?
How you been?
Still alive. Still trying to get used to this old age stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot different world from when you were coming up, huh?
Yeah, that's, I made the move out of California up to North Idaho just so I could, get everything back in perspective again. Because when you're active, you're very active. And if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you should be worn out. And you know what I mean? When you have responsibilities, and, all of us had leadership positions and positions within the West Coast, officers and all that stuff, you're constantly talking and thinking and trying to figure the game out.
So, what was your early life like? Where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Fresno, California. Um, I went in the service when I was 17, and I got out when I was 21. But what I ended up doing is I bought a motorcycle about 6 months before I left the service, and I shipped it home. And as soon as I got home, it was on. And Fresno is very well known for its motorcycle community, so I just jumped in both feet.
And what was it like? Were you around clubs when you first got back and you
A
were riding
lot
your
of
bike?
clubs were around, but I didn't really, because I just got out of the service and I really wasn't used to, hanging out with people that weren't in the service. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I got out, it was all new to me.
There was
And
no other service members riding?
there was a few, but for the most part, Fresno is a gangster town. You know what I mean? Everybody is everybody,
Yeah.
and a lot of bumping heads, a lot of this, a lot of that, but that was just part of the game that you play.
So, what was your first introduction into motorcycle club world?
Um, there was a few clubs in Fresno, and I spoke to a few of them, but I'm really interested in the motorcycle drag racing. The top fuel bikes, and I started attending them everywhere I could: California, Nevada, Oregon. So, I really, the first contact I had with the club was Chicago Joe out of Richmond, and he was a real popular rider. Plus, there was guys out of Canada, guys out of Frisco. And I kind of liked it, so I started just hanging out and talking to people, and got a familiarity of what was going on.
And these were the Angels.
Yeah, yeah, they were prominent in the drag racing world. I mean, we had 3 or 4 guys from Canada. We had Chicago Joe. We had quite a few kids out of Sonoma County. There was a pretty good crew and a pretty good representation for the club.
And back then, what year was this?
Uh, this would be late 80s.
And was it a different time, like where different clubs can hang out with each other and there wasn't that much tension going on, or was there tension at this time?
It just seems like it was inevitable. You might be quiet for a minute or two, but sure as shit, it didn't take much to get it ruffled up and the shit started. So you after a while and you get to know everybody, you kind of know what's up and you stay apprised of who's who and who's not and who's having problems, and you pick and choose where you want to be.
Was there any Mongols in that area?
Um, they weren't too far away. They were about 45 minutes away in Visalia. And, you know, throughout history with Fresno and them, there was always tension. You know, it didn't matter if it was club guys, civilians, or whatever. It just seems like the guys in Fresno were lone wolves. They liked their town. They didn't want no interference, and they didn't get none.
So you start hanging out with these guys. Are you like going to the clubhouse and go to the parties and things
Well,
like
I
that?
wait. You know what? One of the guys in town, one of the older guys, wanted to start something, and we had talked to a few Hells Angels, and they said, "Hey, you know, you start your little club. You guys, you interact as a club, and the eyes are upon you, so they'll see if you're what they deem necessary to run the particular area you're in."
So did you guys start a club?
We started a club. It was called Scream City MC. Um, the name came in the 60s. A lot of the guys, we had a charter here in the 60s. And then because of legal issues and people going to the pen and all that stuff, it pretty much dissolved. And the members that were left went to other charters in California.
So how many people were in the club when it first started, and was it an outlaw club?
In our club, yeah, it was an outlaw club, and we knew that if we wanted to get into the Hell's Angel world, that we were going to have to act as our own club, and then people would see how you interact with the people, how you get along in your town. Uh, we attended all the events that we could, you know, as guests, you know. So you go see and you go here and you go there, and you end up learning if you even want to go any further than that point. You know, a lot of guys see something they may or may not like or may not do, and they end up backing out and going their other way, you know. But with the guys that stayed with me, we definitely had it in mind that that's what our end goal was.
So you, in your mind, you're like, I want to eventually become a Hell's Angel.
Yes, you know, it's just once you get around, you get a taste and you see things, and you start actually getting your feet wet a little bit, so to say. You know, it just the bug gets you and it's over with.
So when is the time that either you ask them or they ask you, is this what you want to do? And what was the process to becoming a Hell's Angel? No, being that you already were in a club.
Well, um, the California Nomads ended up being our sponsor, and they were going to show us the road. And then eventually, after so much time with them, you know, I got called in to one of their meetings, and I was asked, you know, what are you thinking? And I said, I'm thinking that we want to be Hell's Angels. You know, that was our intention when we started, and we had a pretty good little crew going. So uh, I just told them, I said, yeah, and then that's when we were under the wing of the California Nomads. Well, at that same meeting, one of the guys goes, "Hey, we got a proposition for you." And I said, "Okay, shoot." And they said, "You want your own charter in Fresno?" And I looked at him and I says, "Well, you know, yeah, I mean, being in my own town and because in geographics on Highway 99, we had probably five charters on the 99. And Fresno was a gap between Bakersfield and Stockton. So the idea was to fill that gap and start making our presence known.
Now, when you decide this is what I'm going to do, well, the Nomad chapter, they don't have a clubhouse, right? They roam around from clubhouse to clubhouse.
Well, I mean, by the definition of the word, yeah, but they were in Stockton. A few of the guys were outside of Stockton, but a lot of the nomads had businesses there. You know, motorcycle shop, tow businesses. A lot of guys were tied. Now, could they travel and did they travel? Well, sure. You know.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, they asked me if that's what I wanted to do, and I says, you know, and he goes, can you speak for all your guys? And I says, well, yeah, you know, I mean, that would be the ultimate, is to be in your own hometown. So they all started laughing at me, and I got kind of pissed, and I said, hey, well, you know, what's so fucking funny? And they just looked at me, you'll see. And that was it. Get the fuck out of the room. And you're
because you could have became a member a lot faster.
Well, I mean, on paper, if I would have stayed with the Nomads, I would have prospected as a Nomad, made member as a Nomad. And then after X amount of time in the charter, then you could have, after I found out later, that you could have started another charter in Fresno. But since I was a knothead, I took the hard way. So altogether, it was 5 years, 11 months, and 11 days.
That's a long
before
time.
I was a Hell's Angel.
But you were already hanging out before this time.
Yeah, but
right?
that 5 years, once you've committed to that way of life, then there's no patty caking around it. When you say you start, you start. And the California Nomads educated us, and you know the thing is to go everywhere that you're allowed to go, that where there's a function, a party, or if there's somewhere that our charter could help you guys out while you're doing this toy run or an anniversary party or whatever, then you be there. And that's the only way you're going to get to know what Hell's Angels are, and you get to know the individuals that are part of that club. You know, because like it or not, them are the guys. Them are your teachers. Them are your educators. Most of them. You know,
do you get to wear your patch during this time? Your club?
no, the deal that we had to go is the patch got absorbed by the Hell's Angels, so there was no more Scream City. We became Hell's Angel Hang Around Charter, and then eventually we went to Fresno Prospect Charter.
So you had no patches at first.
At first, we had our, they had a little, they called it a license plate. You know, there was a hang around deal, and you had to hang around. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was part of, okay, like I said, once you agree, then there's the start. Once you hang that on, now, the hang around period, you know, is for you to check out the lifestyle, to check out the motorcycling, to check out what you see, you know, and if you have second thoughts, then would be the time to say so, you know, go in and just say, hey, look, I don't think this is for me, and I'm backing out. Okay. But once you go from hang around to prospect, the decision has been made. You know what I mean? All guesses or thoughts or whatever is off. It's time to get started and hit the road, and that's what you do. You know, because that's what prospect is. You're a prospective member of the Hell's Angel Motorcycle Club, and you will act accordingly.
How many prospects did you guys have in your charter?
We started off with maybe 9 or 10, but soon as it started on the road to doing that, you'll see guys, they're dropping like flies. They can't keep up with the no sleeping, the constant on your motorcycle, town to town, state to state, whatever it took to let the Hells Angel Motorcycle Club as a whole know that we were serious, and we'll do what it takes. And so, you get the natural attrition rate, so by the time we were made members, we were down to 7 guys, 7 solid guys.
So did 7 all patch
Passed
over
out.
like at the
Yes.
same time?
Yes. Yes.
Now, what was that day like when they call you? Walk me through that day.
We had I'm sure you know about our monthly meetings, and so we all go up to Oakland, and what we do at our meetings, our job is to let the membership know what we've been doing, what we've been learning, what charters we visited, any, let's say, legal problems that we bump into. They want to know it. If they're doing this, if they're doing that, they want to know how they're coming at us. So yeah, we had all the above. So each and every month, we gave a report to the West Coast and told them what we did and what we've been doing and what was coming up in the future. But so we go in there that day, and everybody's there, and I'm sitting there, and the chairman of the West Coast committee, he says, "Okay, guys, what's up?" And we go through, okay, we did this, we did that, we went here, we had issues with this, and we're doing that. And so, they're well informed and well versed as to how we're operating down there.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, you know, we don't see you guys nowhere. We don't see you. We think you're fucking lazy. I don't know if you're just wasting our fucking time." And man, because I got the PTSD and all that shit, I started to get a little boiled in there for a second. But I know the guy that, the member that was telling me that, I kept looking. I go, "Is he fucking serious?" And then I retorted with, like I did my best to bite my tongue. I think there was blood coming out. I just says, "Well, if you haven't seen us, y'all need to get some goddamn glasses."
Did you say that?
I didn't have no choice. I didn't know what else to say. I was like, "Oh no," and then they all started laughing, and they said, "Turn around," and all of our patches were on the bar in Oakland.
Oh,
So,
man.
I mean, you can equate it to like the birth of your first kid. You're so fucking excited you don't know what to do. Well, I was standing in the room with 50 Hells Angels, and I'm like blah, 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 blah. And then the Nomad president Festus was alive then. He came up and took his patch off and gave it to me. He goes, "Now you're gonna start doing what we do," because now I'm privy to some of the things, and as the president of my charter, you got to suck in everything so that you can go back and your guys become knowledgeable, and you know what I mean. You don't want anybody not being in the loop, because if they get asked a question, I would tell my guys, you better have a good answer. We're not standing around here playing cards and smoking and joking. You need to be listening, and you need to be taking heed from some of them old folks that got 30 years in. You know what I mean? Because if they're not a fountain of knowledge, I don't know who is.
So do you guys have a big party that night?
Actually, we're in Oakland, and everything was kind of because of the meeting, and I guess there were some things discussed before the meeting, in the weeks. So it ended up we didn't do a party then, but we did one later on. We all just rode home with, me. I had a smile so fucking big. I was eating fucking cockroaches or whatever was on the road. I didn't give a shit. So the next morning, we went to an upholstery guy that was a friend of ours, and he sold all of our stuff on. And the first time I put on my own cut with all my everything that belonged to it, and you sat on that bike,
Just
I won't
feels
say.
different. Does it feel different?
Uh, in my case, because actually, I think I'm and the guys that I prospected with in my charter, I think we prospected longer than anybody ever has in history. And
Yeah,
that was
I'm pretty
when
sure
you
Rhode
go
Island was
five,
about
five,
5 years.
5 years, 11 months, and 11 days, and then you get that, and you put it on, and now it's started. This is the real deal. No more practicing, no more nothing. And then it let me believe as a leader that what I did was proper in that 5 years. I must have done something right. I wouldn't be standing here right now so damn happy.
And now you have a president tab, right?
I got it all.
And so you were the president basically of the
Yeah, well, I was the president of the other club, and then,
yeah.
like I said, we switched over to Fresno County Hells Angels, and which I'm the president of, and like my vice president. Most of these guys I've been riding with for 25, 30 years. And for us to put it together, all of our different ways of life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to make it one solid little unit and to keep it that way, uh, to me, that was the ultimate. You know.
Was there any challenges that you faced putting on that president tab?
uh, after I made member?
Yeah. Or before.
Well, before, I'll give you a secret. I told them all, put a frozen bag of peas in the freezer. So when you come home from the parties, you get to make that eye go away. Why? It's just the way it was.
There are a lot of fights?
There's a few disagreements. Sometimes geographical, sometimes just my personality. New kid on the block, and it is like going to a sports team or school or anything else. Somebody's going to check your ass at some point in time, and you just take it with a grain of salt, because when it's your turn, guess what you're doing? You're checking that ass too. So
Is there any situations that stand out in your mind?
um not that I would talk about, but it's different. I'll tell you that. You keep both eyes open. You keep your ears open and your mouth shut when that time comes, because that's how you learn how our organization functions. Because we all wear the same patch doesn't mean we're in the same frame of mind. And that in Richmond, you do it like that. Oakland does it like that. Fresno does it like this. And it's all different in all geographical areas. East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, Alaska, Canada. Everybody, yeah, we wear the same patch, but our problems are different, and the way we take care of them are different.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all when you represent somebody like the Hells Angels, you try to always, always, always not make mistakes. That was me. I was obsessed with doing it right.
As a prospect, are you allowed to fight members?
Yeah, yeah.
There's been quite a few fights, right? Is there rules
Well,
between fighting
look,
members?
if like sometimes it might just be because we're at a party and we just feel like it. Somebody gets a scratch in their nose, so they itch it. And I happen to be the one standing closest, so, oh well. But uh, when there's an issue, handling it physically, you go out back when they say no and stop, and that's it. There's no weapons. You're not trying to kill somebody. You're ironing out this little itch I got, and
Yeah.
whether it's the other member or me, I made plenty of mistakes. So you can believe that bag of peas came out a few times.
Was there any tests that they put you to during your time prospecting?
I mean, not that they would tell you. There's no book, there's no nothing there. I mean, like I said, when we agreed to do this, just get the fuck out of here. We're done talking. You know, it's on now. In other
Yeah.
words, welcome to our world. And so it's a long road. It's a long, windy road.
So now, when you're traveling to all these different states and things like that, is there accidents that happen on the road going to different rallies and
Uh, man, I probably myself, I probably know, or why I was active. There was probably 15 motorcycle related deaths.
wow?
Some very close to me. I had two in my charter die. That were prospects, and they got in a wreck on the bikes and ended up killing them.
Were you guys all together when it happened?
No, a couple times, one or two guys. The worst one that I can remember, I think, was Pee Wee and them guys coming out of Vegas. And if I remember correctly, I think Charlie and his whole charter crashed. There was we were going to the Midwest somewhere. It was raining, and where they're coming out of Vegas, they got these chili dips, right? And they go down, they come back up. Well, when it rains real hard, those things fill up. And no, you can't see it from the road. It's like a mirage.
Yeah.
So you're going 90, 100 miles an hour because we're going to Timbuktu 2. Well, them guys didn't see it, and they hit, and I mean all of them. It was a bad mess. Bad mess. That was the worst one that I remember.
It was like a domino effect. Boom, boom.
Oh man. And then, Charlie's not a small guy. He's up front. He's got fucking 15, 20 people behind him. And when you're going 80, 90 miles an hour and you don't get 0 seconds to react, you just hit this thing at 90 miles an hour minimum. And then you got 15 guys behind you. So the injuries varied. Some were serious, some guys, but the bikes, you got guys going to the hospital, you got guys that got to fix bikes. But like with Charlie, he knows his obligation was to get to that fucking run site. You drove, you didn't load up like this. And if this shit happens, okay, so it did. Now what the fuck are we going to do about it? Let's pick up what we got. Let's put what we can together, and let's move out the rest of the charter.
So the people would go to the hospital, and he just kept it going. All
Well,
beat up.
It happens. You know what I mean? And if you're driven like that, you do the best you can. You leave somebody back there to stay with the guys and keep in communication with the charter itself. So, and then even like say you're going to a USA run, you call the powers that be, you let them know who, what, when, and where, and you let them know everything that's going on. Hey, we got a couple guys in the hospital. We got a couple guys hurt worse than that. And we got a couple guys that managed to get things back together and get back on the road, and they're heading that way.
You being a president, are you able to say something like that happens, you tell a prospect, give me your bike and you stay here with them. I'm going to the rally on your bike. Would you do that?
Yes. Yep. I've had some experiences, on those long runs like that. I went, Mark out of Frisco, who is no longer with us, Papa. I had a battery explode somewhere, and there was like 30 of us, and we're like the advanced party. We're going to go and we're going to scout the town. We're going to do this. We're going to get our shit ready for our guys coming in the next 4 or 5 days. So we're in the middle of fucking nowhere, and my battery explodes
While you're riding.
while we're riding, and bike goes off, blah, blah, blah. We get there, no stores, closest store, 7,500 miles, right? We just filled up. Rather than go back, we're going to keep going forward. So Papa takes his battery out of his bike, puts it in my bike because I had a big inch motor in it. He goes, you ride mine. He pegged me. I don't know if you know what pegging is.
Yeah, where you put your foot on the other bike.
He pegged me 80 fucking miles at probably 90 miles an hour. Didn't miss a lick. Because Papa's a big, thick guy. And man, I was hanging on, and people are looking at us, and he's got his leg sitting on my thing, and we're passing people, and I'm not even running. I mean, you do things. Well, to me, that was like superhuman. You're like, fuck, but there he is. You got a 15, 20-year member. Ain't his first rodeo. Get on that fucking bike, Mike. Let's go. Hey man, can you slow down a little bit? That don't come in the conversation.
You're just holding on for dear life.
Oh man,
right?
And when we got to where we're going, and I got a battery finally, everybody that was in our little group there just was shaking their head. These youngsters had never seen anything like it. Never. They just said, my God, that guy. And I says, well, he's one of the ones. You know what I mean?
Was there a lot of situations that happened like that where that surprised you with people's ingenuity and things?
Nothing surprises me anymore. I've seen, even myself, because I'm a semi-mechanic. I'm a custom bike builder, but I do paint work as my specialty. I don't like beating up my hands all the time, but I was good at building bikes, so I could do it. So you could be out in the middle of nowhere and something happened. And I'll tell you what, rather than sit there, the last thing that you're going to do is call a tow truck. You know what I mean? You're going to exhaust everything that we got in this group to get this bike back on the road, get them to civilization, and then we'll deal with it properly then. But one thing about traveling across the United States and having those kind of problems is we're not alone. And not everybody loves us. And in some places, you don't want to be sitting too awful long because karma is going to come see you.
You guys ever had that happen where you're sitting too long and maybe
a few times, a few times. And I'd say 95% of the time it worked out. Like the powers that be would speak, say, hey, look, we're doing this, doing that. And now, sometimes if it's on, it's on. You know what I mean? Sometimes we didn't have that kind of luxury to speak to anybody. So you do what you think is right at the moment that you're in,
Yeah. Now, what about law enforcement? You go to these small towns on these runs. Are you guys getting harassed a lot?
But the way we had it arranged on the West Coast is I was the West Coast financial officer, and so what I'd done is like, say, for instance, when Charlie did, when he was had the food, and he was in charge of everything that went with the food department. So he'd call me and say, hey, I need an ice truck. I need a refrigerator truck. I need this. I need that. and whatever he needed, I'd call ahead. We'd put everything on our company credit cards to say, hey, look, we want this, we want it there, we want it delivered at this run site at this time. And if we took care of all that before we got there, there was no cluster. You know what I mean?
Things would run smooth.
Oh, I mean, I was there long enough to where not on my watch or not, and I bumped heads with a few people. Then I learned, okay, because we need to do, the shuttle vans. We got some guys with the wives and whatever. So rather than ride the bike, we give them rides to the party and back, the bars, whatever, dinner. And so we had to have a couple of those. We had to have, 100 hotel rooms. And me trying to go out there, and I'd fly out there, then trying to explain to them that I'm having a family reunion. And then finally I just quit lying. I said, hey, look, this is who's coming. This is when I need to talk to, get the police chief, get whoever you got to good. The only one that wouldn't talk to us really is the feds. Local would listen to you, but you knew all the time they were like, yeah, give us a chance.
Yeah, let us know you're coming. We're gonna be there, right?
It's better that way to let the townspeople know. I go to the bars. I would explain to them, hey, we're going to be here for 5 days. Here's my phone number. If you have a problem that you don't think you can handle, call me. I tell law enforcement to say, well, I have no secrets to hide from you. This is my job, is to watch over this. And if somebody needs to be bailed, I bail them. If we need supplies, we get supplies. It doesn't matter what it is. Things got to be covered immediately, so there's no hesitance in the party, no stopping of food or bar or anything. Our things are 24/7 until we leave. So if you want to come in after you've been riding, it's 3 a.m, go to our kitchen, have you a nice breakfast, whatever you want.
That's only for members, though.
Well, and their guest. If you brought a guest and like your wife or your kids or whatever, they were also taken care of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you didn't have to go into town to go try to fuck around with the cops at 3 a.m, because that's not the best time for us to be out there, in several different ways, So we just said, hey, look, our kitchen, our bar, our everything is 24/7. I don't care what you want. You're taken care of.
Now, is there times that you would call ahead and things would be okay, and then the cops would harass you guys?
Well, you know how they are.
Of course.
We're not best friends. We're not kissing cousins. But what I like to do is I start with the powers that be. I don't want to talk to the grocery clerk. I want to talk to the manager of the Walmart. I said, look, I'm coming in here and I'm buying $15,000 worth of groceries. I want it all palletized. I want it all wrapped up. I want dry goods and refrigerated goods separate. So when you deliver it to, say, Pee Wee's Kitchen, all those things were ready to go. The refrigerator trailer was there. The ice is there for the bar, whatever it is, it's on. And then all I got to do is pick up the phone and say, hey, we need another pallet of that ice. Deliver it to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Done. They took the credit cards, they ran them. And then once they did, they came, oh, anything you want. They gave me, they would give me shoppers. They'd have 2 people with me writing down everything. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And they would deliver it to the run site, unload it, and bang. And it was already on the credit card. No cash involved, no bullshit.
Yeah.
And when I took over the money situation, I cut out the cash.
Why did it used to be cash?
It was for a long time. And the problem was that members would get pulled over in a traffic stop and then would confiscate it. And then they would try to make a case, it's dirty money or whatever, right? But no matter what, it would take us months worth of court bullshit to get it back. And then out of when we got the money back, they confiscated, 10% of it just because.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, they thought we were the enemy and we considered them the enemy. And that's how I feel. Law enforcement has done so many dirty things to too many dirty, you know, to members of this club. I mean, dirty, you know, and they don't give a, you
Is
know.
there anything that you can talk about that they have done to the club?
Well, I mean, okay, usually it's doing, you know, like say they wanted, I'll just give, I got raided. When they came to my house, they did not find what they wanted. They got something, but it was, you know, basically whatever. But what they were looking for was two different things. Well, the guys got mad. They pissed all over my, I had a downstairs bedroom and bathroom. They went in there and pissed and all, you know, the bathroom, the carpet, everywhere. They knocked holes in the walls. They wrecked it, right?
They pissed in your house?
Okay. And then same with the first one that I remember was Mark Papa out of Frisco got raided, and they went in and they pissed on his kid's bed, you know, and that's their little ha ha fuck you. And in my book, well, I guess we're just going to start playing ugly, you know. Guys, don't forget that when it's your baby, your house, your home, your motorcycle, and they're doing all, you know, pushing it over, doing this, doing that, you know, confiscating shit. I mean, they're dirty. They're about as dirty as an organization that I've ever run into. You know, if they want to make things happen, done deal. And you know, their little code that they have, their blue silence or their, you know, whatever, they're all lying motherfuckers, and we all know it. You know, so that's why we prefer not to talk to them unless it's a business like situation like that. But the chit chat, nah, got nothing to say to you.
Yeah, that's one thing. They say that Hell's Angels never talk to the police, but obviously, if you guys are doing parties and you have to go to these different towns,
Well,
you
what,
kind of have to sometimes, right?
okay, well, and I made it very obvious that I did that. And some people went, "What?" And I said, "Check it out. You know, I'm trying to prevent something in the future here. I mean, we're trying to pull it off. We're going here, we're traveling 1,500 miles. We're going to have a good time. The last thing we need to do is deal with some deputy dog that wants to make his bones off of one of us. Oh, yeah, I got that. I used to see him in the gym all the time. Yeah, I got them. Them, mother, you know, they ain't, you know what I mean? It's a little feather up here, you know, it makes their another inch longer, you know, I guess, I don't know, you know, but by talking to them, I learned that from some of the older charters. They've been there so long, that's exactly what they did. They didn't ask them. You got told, we're doing this, we're going to be this to this, we're going to be over here, blah blah blah, we're taking care of our own, and we'll be gone at whatever time approximately. So they're very much aware of what's going on. And if they pop in, somebody's going to meet them and reiterate our agreement.
But the feds are a different story,
I mean,
right?
there's no getting over them. Them guys, they're super freaky. You know, they show up in half a dozen black helicopters parked at the elementary school, and you know everything that, you know, it's not like you can't see them. There's 400 black cars with black windows in our run site or around our run site. So we're like going, gee, I wonder if he's law enforcement. You know, some guys, I don't say 100% of them are no good, but I've met very few that were honest in what they were doing.
What about people trying to infiltrate the club? Have you seen that in your time?
I have seen law enforcement, and you know what I mean? If you live there all your life, you pretty much know who's who, or you've had some kind of one-on-one with these pricks. And so you got about as good as an understanding as you could possibly get. this is about as far as I'm going to go with you. And if not, let's just go fight and get this over with. You, man. I mean, really, I'm not going to let you take away my manhood, my intelligence, my integrity because you got a $5 badge on. Hey, we know what to do. We're fucking grown men. You act like we sit outside elementary schools with a bag of, here,
Yeah,
little
that,
kid. You
that's
know
how
what I mean?
they act, right? That's how they act.
90% of the time when they're doing that, do you know what this shit's doing? Okay, hey, you know what? The individual that does what he does, he's responsible for his actions, not the club. We act autonomously, and if a member gets in trouble and it's a personal thing, well, yeah, we're sympathetic. Yeah, okay, but are we financially responsible? Are we going to go out of our way for measures that was for you and you alone? The guys that get caught usually know it's on you. Same with when I got arrested. I paid for everything myself because it wasn't club related and it wasn't for the something to benefit our club, by me doing whatever. So
Yeah.
just, if it's a politics or illegal this or assaults and things like that, then the club comes together and we help whoever needs help. You got things like Laughlin.
Yeah.
You've got all these things. You had Laconia on the East Coast. A lot of members were tied up in that. Well, that was you representing us. And when they tried to bully the people they shouldn't have, they got mad because they had the bag of peas out when they went home. And now we got a big old court case, but they're over there like that, and we're going home. Most of us did. A few of the guys didn't. They did their time out there, and but they know, leave that little thing in your pocket, leave that thing in your holster. Keep your attitude. If you see a bunch of it, don't go there and say, I bet I can, because I could probably bet you 100 you're not. It's just that we have the mentality we may not always win, but we never fucking lose. Simple as that. And if it's one of your guys and you see him getting tossed by whoever, you're there to prevent that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't
Well,
matter.
after you've had your few years in, your fucking heart starts beating. Even just when you recognize a situation, you're already in mode. Your adrenaline, your everything. You're not going to let your guys get hurt no matter what. So
Have you ever been in a situation where something pops off and somebody maybe it surprises you to the way that they react to a situation?
you in any organization, okay, and I mean any, even in law enforcement, I don't care who it is. You're going to get a guy that says, yeah, yeah, yeah. They raise their hand. Okay, now, once you've done that, you've said all you need to say to me. I shouldn't have to turn around and look to see if you're helping whoever out. You know what I mean? I expect it, and the same is expected out of me. I don't sit there and you better not be smoking a joint while fuckers are over here getting their heads knocked in. But we've had incidences where, and they're rare, but still it happens, just like any other walk of life. Maybe the guy that raised his hand raised it a little bit too fast and a little bit too high. Because when it gets ugly like that, it's ugly. And a lot of guys that never experienced it, they're hesitant, and that's no good with us.
And now, when someone acts like that, and the smoke settles, right? Do you call them to the carpet?
Well, the powers that be will. I mean, if it's something that flagrant, whatever charter is probably going to be notified, And if it was that bad, then the charter's going to handle their own business. It's not for me to go say, hey, Joe Blow, I'm not a tattletale and I'm not the police of the club. But if something went really wrong and somebody got arrested or somebody got hurt, those would be grounds to have a talking to,
So like you said, what if someone does something wrong around your charter from a different charter? Do you have to notify their charter? Like,
No,
hey,
no, no, no. 99% of the time, you try to handle it right there, right then. Hopefully, it doesn't have to go any further, because that's just extra bullshit on whoever's running the show. It's more shit on their plate that they don't, because I'm one of them guys, man. I got a job. I don't need to be dealing with this stupid shit. Now, if you can get it out of your systems and everything's good. If it's worse than that, then I would say the leader of one charter would talk to another leader and discuss it. And what do you think? I know lately, because of our media and all that stuff, the last 3 or 4 years have been kind of rough on the club and some goings-ons, and whether I wasn't there, so I'm not going to go throw out my 2 cents, but I sure would love to think that maybe there was one other thing that we might be able to have done or talk, and if there's one of those situations where there's no talking, well, then so be it. You know what I mean? So be it. But you read, like I said, the last 3 or 4 years has been bad news, and not just with our club.
a lot of them, yeah,
a lot of clubs, and they're all, and they're not just snatching up this guy; they take the whole fucking mob. In Bakersfield, this arrested the whole charter. They just recently did the thing at the Wawa and all that shit. Well, they arrest 9-10 guys.
yeah.
Well, how are you going to have a charter if they're all incarcerated? And like I said, I'm not there, so as a leader, I would read the situation. If it was already out of control, then hey, I'm in with the rest. I mean,
Yeah,
it's already kicked off. What have I got to say? But sometimes not everybody is articulate, the people you're dealing with, and if that's the case, then you talking.
yeah. I mean, sometimes the other side.
I mean, we had guys in there that said fuck talking at all times. But I was of the thing like, man, that seems pretty petty. Let's see if we can do something here. And if not, then, everybody knows what to do on both sides. And that's the way it is.
Let's talk about rivalries that you've had with other clubs. You don't have to name any clubs.
No, I
But like coming up on the West Coast, there's certain rivalries out there. And then there's different rivalries all over the country. Maybe some of the people you maybe not even came across, just like Pee Wee hasn't even come across certain clubs.
Exactly. And well, I would say California is a hot spot. East Coast, when I say East Coast, I mean all the states on the seaboard there. They're so close together. I mean, when you can have an Outlaws clubhouse 5 blocks down from a Hell's Angel clubhouse in the same fucking town, well, that gives me food for thought, at all times. You know what I mean? I just use that as an example, but man, it's happened so many times, especially on the freeway, in California. I mean, freeways is where we all go, and we're all going, and you see our packs, you see their packs, you do all these things. Well, I try to teach them youngsters. I said, hey, homie, if you see a black Suburban, or you see this, and you see 4 windows come down like that simultaneously, and they're getting close to us, I'm just going to take a wild stab at it. I don't think they're friends of ours.
Probably not.
Possibly not. But why wait and find out?
So
You
have you had that happen?
know, a lot of things have happened. You know, you could be
What do
getting
you
gas.
do? What do you do if you're on the
You don't
highway?
do anything. You know, you assess what's going on. If somebody doesn't come to you, then you carry on what you're doing. But you know, I've been at gas stations where I looked down the block and I saw things that weren't right, and I said, "Okay, guys, y'all get gas, all you." I'm the only one that didn't, but I
Wow,
had my pump in my hand
because you're looking out.
with $10 on it. I'm just saying, before
Yeah.
anybody gets us, I'll get gas somewhere else. You know, I mean, you never know. Each situation that you run across is different. You know, it's
Yeah.
just you just never know. That's the thing. The fear of the unknown. You
Now, is
know,
there times when you guys are around each other and other rival groups and there's tension in the air, but people aren't really doing things?
like we have worked things out like at racetracks, right? We have, like you say, this guy may be a rival, their club may be a rival. But let's say we have 5 different clubs participating, and in them 5 clubs, there might be 15 bikes. And these guys are all there for competition. Da da da. So we have tried to just leave that hands off. You know, if you're competing and this and that, and you guys are at the same place doing the same thing, and usually the racers have already, they've already taken care of things themselves. They know who's who. They've seen them 1,000 times. They've competed 1,000 times. They're all good. And if something's going on in the world that is serious, we try to leave it out of that kind of situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But on the road and out and about, I mean, until you actually, you look over and you say, oh, that looks like different people, and then you start saying, okay, I expect the worst out of everybody. And then, like you say, clubs are the one thing, but then law enforcement, uh, you know, law enforcement created Laughlin. Guarantee it.
Yeah, they ran to the other side and they said,
They,
"Hey,
they
your buddies are
made
being
a
surrounded."
deal with the devil, and the devil was cool as fuck. You guys can't be that stupid. Well, okay, if you are, okay. And that was at the times in them, the tensions was pretty high then, real high. And then when you start having loss of life and this, things don't go away immediately. They just don't. At some point in time, somebody may bump into somebody and talk. Uh, I used to do a lot of that, the Confederation of Clubs thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know other people are going to be there. And then, like, the powers, my bosses would call ahead and say, hey, look, we got X amount of guys going out there, blah, 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 blah. I'll have this guy contact you. And we have knowledge and they have knowledge that we're all going to be there. Now, at that particular time, I've had good conversations with people, and then I've had zero conversations with people. If it doesn't look right, fuck it. It is what it is. I'm in my backyard, you're in your front yard. That's cool. That's where we're going to leave it. Now, some people within other clubs, they're very good at communication. And I believe there has to be some. I mean, like I said, I ain't kissing on nobody. I'm not blah, blah, blah. But if I could speak to somebody and get something taken care of by a few words and know what the problem is, and if I'm able to take care of it, I will. If I have to go above me and say, hey, look, this is what is being asked, and I relay them, and they make the power. They're the powers that be. They make the decision, and I'll abide by it. You know, it gets kind of crazy. You get in them fairs and the clubs. I don't think there's anybody in there that likes each other. But by the time that I was there 5 days, by the time I got done and I left, I had spoken to numerous members of the Outlaws, and it all was related to this politics club. Nothing personal and nothing club wise, but these laws and the evidence and these gang enhancements. The things that they were starting to throw at people. Well, in California, they hit us first, but then they just started moving to the East Coast.
Yeah.
And that's why you see the whole charter getting arrested. They're all getting charged with gang enhancements or gang affiliation or for the furtherance of a criminal organization. And that's what happens. And that's why I try to say, I don't want to be no peacemaker and all that, but the particular situation I'm in, I'd like to be able to do something besides the usual.
Sit back and be part of it.
Okay, I raised my hand.
Rather be part of the solution than part of the problem.
Right? Either which one doesn't, personally, if I can speak for a minute or two and stop something, okay. But if I can't, then we all know, get the bag of peas out.
Yeah.
Band-Aids and bags of peas, you'll be set.
Now, Laughlin was a huge incident, right? And they tried to take the Mongols' patches. And then the Hells Angels ended up putting up money to help them keep their patch.
Sometime, okay, Laughlin was a smoldering situation for years. So right away, there was no talking. Okay. And then when you change hierarchy, you get rid of Doc Cavazos and little Davies there. Okay. So now you got somebody, that is well-versed, knows what time of day it is, and doesn't have the wool pulled over his eyes too fucking easy. And he's not in for the Hollywood shit and getting on videos like Doc was. He wants to get on national TV and say, fuck Emmy, and I'm going like, oh my God. You know what I mean? And I saw it with fuck them. And I went, oh, now you got some fun buddies.
Yeah, that's not a good,
no, it's not. And then it may have, he could do this shit in front of all his guys and all that, admire your balls and I question your brains. You fucking idiot. You just opened up a can of worms, throughout San Diego to fucking Shasta. You know how many how many prisons there are? I do.
And then he ends up cooperating in the end. Like, you can't make this up.
There again, way up here in the air. But when it came down to it, because we've got guys in our club that have done 30 years for something they never even did. But because they were accused of it, they let it ride. And in them days, law enforcement and judges and prosecutions, they had to have your neck swinging. There was no other. We can't let this guy beat this shit.
No.
So the guys were getting prison term. I mean, in California, the guys that had 3 or 4 joints were getting 2-3 years in the pen. Next thing you know, San Quentin's got fucking 25 guys. They got their own fucking deal. They got a charter in the pen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then if you ask them, it's all over little dope stuff or, a fight or what have you, So I don't know.
Now, did you ever go to prison as a member?
No. I went to a state facility.
Well, it's pretty.
Well, I went to, when I end up with all the money paid and the lawyers paid, I went to a county facility for 7 months. And
what's it like for a member when you go to jail? What's it like for them?
99% of everybody's curious. And then again, you got 2 or 3 that think that maybe and they find out that that's not correct. You know, but you can't do it to everybody. Do you? You got to ignore them. You know, fuck you. I got guys. I getting pulled out of myself fucking every other day. Well, we heard this, we heard that. They start asking about the guys in the other club. And I go, look, I'm not in the other club. I don't know. And if they're doing something, what I say is good for them. Whatever they're doing. Hey, if they're buying property over here, well, what do you know about? I said, I don't know shit. Why? Because I'm not privy to that, and I really, really don't care. I'm worried about me and mine's, you know, not what they're doing creeping around up here. I don't care. You know, my deal is if we come into contact, what happens from that point on?
So when you were in lockup, did you come across any rival members? And what's the protocol for when you're in jail together?
I didn't. I know other members that have, and especially the guys that did extended prison time. You know, early guys that are in their early 70s, they did extended, you know, 8, 9, 10 years. Well, they ran into other members, and the same as the racetrack, unless something's very, very wrong, you make up your mind what you want to do and what you feel comfortable with. Guys meet in prison, and they know some people will talk and some people won't. Well, then there it is there. You know, it's, you know, but there are occasions where people have talked. And if you ask me, as long as they weren't talking about our personal business, it was whatever they were going through at the time, you know, prison conditions. This guy's over here, you know, cops doing this cop doing that. You know what I mean? They're talking about their environment. They're not talking about what we're wearing on our bats, because obviously, you know, that's not the situation. You know, even though we're members, everybody's in there. You know, so if you get along, and if you don't, you don't. You know, what are you supposed to do? You can't make arrangements. Well, I don't really want to be, you know, you can't do that. You go where the, you know, like I said, race wise, yes, you know, but as far as club wise, I think it's a decent atmosphere.
You go where they put you, basically, right?
Well, yeah, but if they see by your paperwork that it tends to not get along with others, well, don't tempt him. Just, okay, put him over here. We already know it says right here he is going to go off on him. So, okay, let it go.
Now, when they put you in, was it they did they put that you were in the club on your paperwork?
Yeah, everybody knew, because I got my tattoos all over my neck, my chest, my arms, you know, and it seems like the hierarchy of the correctional, they want to get some kind of like a move ahead. They want that little chunk that they say they I got it directly from the, okay, well, in my case, that's never true, because there's only 2 words I've ever said: fuck you. I don't have recordings. I have nothing to say to you. Lawyer, whatever we got to do. I mean, we were taught, I mean, most guys that ran around the streets a little bit, let's say, I didn't, you know, criminal activity or not, you know, in certain situations, you should already have all these things under your fucking belt. I mean, you ain't got to tell me not to talk to that motherfucker. They're not going to do me no. Oh, well, hey man, no, liar. You know. So if that's instilled into your body and your mind thought when you come into, you know, they'll pull you. Where are you going? Where you been? You have any guns? No, I have nothing to say. You know, and then they said, well, he said, oh yeah, you know how it is. It's just like any criminal. They're trying to, if they don't have it physically, then they will manufacture whatever they need to fit the crime on this individual member. If they don't have quite enough, well, they'll get the pot a little bit more juicy by hook or by crook. and Laughlin was probably one of the biggest ones that people were disappearing, that were potential witnesses, and all of a sudden they're gone because what they had to say was damaging to the prosecution's case. Well, now they can't be subpoenaed because we can't find them. Where's this paramedic? Where's this doctor? Where's this teller? Where's this, where is the lady that was serving at the bar? I mean, where are these people that this is here and there in this film? But for us to try to get a hold of them and have them tell their side of the story, they're not to be found nowhere. It's just like when they found Dago Chris was out in the desert on his bike.
Yeah.
Okay. How's the guy at 3 a.m. in the middle, and I mean in the middle of absolute nowhere? How does he get murdered? Well, he's
on
got
the side of the road. He had his badge on too.
Okay. And his wallet was sitting on his seat. Okay. And I'm sure that the powers that be have gotten down to whatever, but to all of us, we're I just talked to Chris. He goes, man, I got to leave in the middle of the night because it was his kid's birthday in San Diego. So he's hauling ass. He participated in our deal, but I got to go. And he took off by himself. Nobody was with him. Well, they find him out in the desert, bike's on its kid stand. He didn't get shot off, nothing. Bike's still sitting there. And when they get there, his wallet was sitting on his seat. Okay. As if maybe he was showing his ID to somebody. I mean, I don't know, but I know, if it smells like shit, it is shit, and that's the kind of the dirty things I'm talking about that happened and get swept under the rug. And Chris was good, man. Anybody that's going to ride that far to be at his kid's birthday party, not just tell, nah, man, I can't be here. I got to be with the club. Not him. He chose to do what he did, and he got killed for it. And basically, I say he was murdered. That whole incident there, and then as the evidence comes out, you start seeing, God damn, Las Vegas Police Department, this police department, these guys are in on everything, and they're back there like this, stirring that pot.
Yeah.
People don't go down to a casino or go into a casino unless somebody gave them the old, yeah, y'all ought to hang out down there.
100%.
Well, next thing you know, there's 10 Hells Angels and 75, 100 other guys. Next thing you know, another 30 Hells Angels show up because they're being told,
hey, these guys are surrounding your guys.
And it's what are you going to do? Let's see. Let's wait. No. Another 100 miles an hour parked right in the fucking doorway of the casino, and you. And everybody knows what happened. But the problem is, what they don't know is how deeply involved law enforcement was and how much their hatred with outlaw motorcycle clubs. If you're willing to kill somebody or get them killed, knowing full well that's what you're doing right now is going to get a few of them guys killed, and knowing that, no problem. Okay, they accepted it as part of the job. Matter of fact, some of them guys get off on that shit. Look what I did. Look what I was responsible for. And, I that's one of my biggest pet peeves with law enforcement. Now that the club is not part of my everyday life, and then I got away from everything and put everything in perspective. And then, VA helped me with the PTSD and all the bullshit. And the main thing is the anger, the hatred, and carrying in that grudge. Carrying a grudge made my guts bleed. I fucking hated some people so fucking bad that it was changing my life. You know, nobody wanted to be around me because I'm constantly angry. You know, you don't pay attention to the job at hand because you're over here fucking wanting to get revenge, or you know what I mean? It deters you from doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that's leading your club and participating in what we do.
Now, you were in the club for quite a while. Who are
Yeah,
some of the notable members that you've met over the years?
goddamn. I mean, I could sit here all day long, and and the thing that the reason I would make note of them, because they took the time out. They took the time out to grab me, knowing what I was doing, knowing I was an underdog, starting a new charter, and you know, basically it's you against the world, and you got to make the world like you. So they're giving me pointers, these older guys, and you know, you got Big Mike out of Richmond, you have Cisco, you have Sonny, you have Wayne down in Purdue, and Jeff, you have guys in Dago, you have guys in every geographical area that excel in taking care of the group, gaining knowledge. I mean, their knowledge of things. You know, I got sick with the hepatitis and I started getting cancer. And Mike out of Richmond was dealing with the issue, medical issue. He called me in the middle of the night, says, okay, here's your diet. Here's your this, here's your that. And to this very day, you know, 20 years later, I'm still on it. I still take those same vitamins. I still take this. So it prevents anything from rearing its head back up. You know, there's guys in there that are so knowledgeable, and they just leave you in awe. East Coast, I mean, John the Baptist was one that was so knowledgeable on the legal issues. You know, you got guys that they have their specialty, you know, how to make money, legal issues, membership, how to, guys that dealt with the public and had these, you know, we have an event and we got 50 people that are just everyday citizens, can't wait to donate to the what law enforcement says, you know, we're all killers, murderers, and dope addicts and all that shit. How do these people communicate with this if we're so bad? You know, obviously somebody in this club is smart, and obviously somebody knows their business. Somebody knows this. Somebody knows medical. I mean, it's just that it's a never ending. If you're active, I'm active. I'm everywhere. I do everything, and I listen to every word that I'm told by a person that I should be listening to. Some of the guys thought that was fuddy-duddy shit. Some of our young members think that's fuddy-duddy because they don't belong to a charter that's 50, 60, 70 years deep. You know, well, in 70 years, if you can't pick up the knowledge that we need to know, you know, and what makes it good is that people started opening up to guys like me. You know, I'm new. I don't have a book. I don't have shit. You know, you said, yeah, you raised your hand, get busy, figure it out. And that's what I did. And some people went along with it, and some people didn't like the way I did it. You know, but oh well, can't please everybody.
What about the first time you come across Pee Wee?
Pee Wee and I think we may remember the same month, or, you know, the same year, I know. But anyway, Pee Wee had transferred to Frisco, and we're in Oakland at a meeting, and we're all sitting there, and I see Pee Wee, and I said, hey, somebody go down to the Oakland Raiders and got a football player to prospect for us? Jesus Christ, dude's 6'10", 400 pounds. You know what I mean? And I don't care who you are. When you look at him, you pay attention. And then the guy's got a sense of humor. I mean, he's spontaneous. And for a big guy, he's not a bully. He's very articulate. He's very knowledgeable of business. You know, he had a shop in Sturgis. He has this in Vegas. He had things going on at all times. And I had nothing but good times with Charlie. I have one or two stories that we were going through an airport one day and we're getting on and they want to search his baggage. So they opened this up, and on the very top right here was a big black rubber instrument. If you could use your imagination, uh, it was rubber, had a couple of heads on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So when he gets there, let me go, let me go. So he goes first, and the gal, everybody's sitting there because there's probably 8 or 9 of us patch holders in the line. They opened up that, and I'm telling you, you couldn't hear a pin drop. And this poor lady, she was white as a ghost. She's sitting there staring and didn't know what to say. And here you got 8 of us laughing so fucking hard, and Pee Wee's going, well, what? You know, I can't go home empty-handed. You know, he made light of it, and I think, you know, he's good for the public. They don't fear like normal people would fear. If they talk to him a little bit and they get to see his, you know, larger than life, maybe a tad jolly when it comes necessary. But I have all the respect in the world for Pee Wee, and him doing what he did when he got out, and then some people contacted me and says, hey, you know, homie. I said, oh yeah. And he goes, man, maybe you should talk to him. Maybe, you know, this would be good for you. And a few other guys, you know, because I still talk to a few guys that are they cannot shake it loose. They're bent. They're, oh man. And I keep talking to him. I said, look, man, there's life beyond that. And all you're going to do is, if something happens, you're going to go back. Them lames aren't going to, you know, the people that you're barking off with, they're not worth it, you know. And this guy was the president of his charter, and they did him dirty, you know. And I'm just, you know, I got guys in Canada the same way, you know, my buddy Rob, but they're, you know, fucking 25, 30 years, took everything he owned. You know, the guy, you know, when you do that long in prison, what do you got left? Because they made sure you didn't have nothing.
You have nothing left. That's
Well,
it.
no,
You have yourself.
and did it, and did this alleged thing because a brother was in need. He needed help, like right then and there. He made a decision, did what he did, and that guy, you know, ended up telling on him. You know, and I just that's the shit that kind of, that's when you start thinking about what you're doing. And in my own charter in Fresno, I started just getting, man, guys didn't want to participate. They didn't want to listen. They wanted to go where they wanted to go. Some people thought that because we were Hell's Angels, they don't pay people. You know, I ain't paying to go. You guys got to pay me to go. Pay my gas, pay my hotel room. We go into bars. We're partying.
And they want free stuff.
There are guys that sit back, and I'll go ahead and say it. There was a couple in my charter, you know, and I went, wait. And then when I transferred to Santa Barbara, it was just the opposite. We took care of shit. We made sure everybody was happy, and that if a Hell's Angel walks back in here, another one, not us, but another Hell's, would you treat him with respect? And when we leave, they say yes. You guys paid your bill. You're funny as fuck. It's a great time. Nobody, you know, grabbing on waitresses. It's all verbal sparring, going back and you know the girls love it. Come on.
Yeah.
They
So,
love
but you're in that charter for a long time, the one that you came up in, and then you end up transferring. What was the reason behind the transfer?
differences of opinion on what was appropriate, what was not. You know, I don't care about the dope and all that. I mean, use it, whatever. But I think that, them knowing you're a Hell's Angel and using the fact that you are a Hell's Angel to go press that on people, because it came back to me, like, hey, this motherfucker said or else. And I go, oh, really? So they were given the or else. And if they didn't comply, then or else. And I was like 90% of it I didn't know about. And then when I finally caught on and people were making me knowledgeable, I went in there and I said, hey, motherfucker, telling you right now, underage girls, you guys go party. Hey, if there's a business that wants to do that and wants to have that as their clientele, right? I don't think that you should ride up there with a Hell's Angel from another fucking state or another town and go in there knowing full well that law enforcement has got this under their thumb constantly. And the last thing that I think the club needs is to have their name thrown out there for some kind of stupid underage sex crime. Even though they didn't do nothing, guarantee you by the time it's all said and done, they'll have done something. Oh, yeah, them guys gave them this. Them guys did this. And even though a guy walks into a tattoo shop, okay, it's a tattoo shop. That's what I'm doing here. I like tattoos. I'm going to get one, whatever. And what's going on over here, hey, whatever. But I pitched a bitch. I said, I don't like that. I don't like selling narcotics with your patch on, or doing narcotics deals. Because this person that you're dealing with, if he's dirty, you got it right then and there. You did a deal and all of a sudden they get an extra bonus. Oh, look, there's a club member doing a dope deal with whoever.
And it's not supposed to be it's not even supposed to be a part of the organization as a whole.
But there's people, as I found out of my ignorance, number one, men get jealous worse than women. They'll do anything to sabotage to get what I got. Instead of earning it and just, this is what you get when you run around. Well, these, they get jealous. Next thing I know, a little dirty, little push under the bus. I've seen it happen in more fucking charters. If they decide that, hey, we want to do all that shit and he's the only one stopping us, well.
So if they push the guy out who's trying to keep the shit in line and they can just do what they want if they get rid of this guy, then everything works out to their favor.
And then
right?
our rules have a lot to do with it. It used to be if you did bad, and bad is stealing, testifying, disrespecting somebody's wife, family, or worse. Those used to be the things that I thought, but then it started going the he said, she said. Then it started going like that. And guys were doing it. Then they talked to this guy who talks to this guy. Next thing you know, you got X amount of guys saying the same story. And I go, well, none of that happened. But when we leave a clause that's in our rules is no contact at all. If, let's say, my charter doesn't want me to talk to nobody, and they did not. So they put the bad, he this, he that, nobody contact, no, nothing.
Yeah, but and so you transfer, right? You go to this other charter.
Then I came back to Fresno because I had a legal problem over at the coast. So I came back to Fresno and things had changed in personnel. And fuck, I looked around, half the guys in here weren't even from Fresno. And I went, wait a minute here. I start pitching a bitch. I go, wait a minute. I don't know this motherfucker. I didn't go to school with him. I have no way of knowing anything about this dude. And we're putting our lives on the line here. Oh, well, he lives down here. And, I know he is brother. And it's cool, man. He's cool. No, this is a serious game we play. And some of that shit shouldn't have been allowed to go on. And I got so upset with it. I made a phone call. They were starting a new charter. They wanted somebody of experience to go down there, and I transferred just like that. I had more fun down there, and we did things right. We went everywhere. We had friends. We didn't have a charter full of fucking, half of them are down for the club, and then you got other half that's just couch potatoes. And I just said, hey, look, we're all in this. I don't care if I'm the president. I don't get to kiss the ring shit. I dive in and I get dirty. I cook, I clean, whatever. I mean, I'm not doing it like I'm a prospect, but if it needs to be done and there's a hand that needs to be given, then give it. Don't think you're too fucking good for it. Don't think that, oh, I'm special because I got this. That makes me sick because a lot of guys play that off. There's a time and place for that.
So what transpires? Where does your life go from there? You transfer down
Well,
there. Things are going okay.
I transferred. I'm sure that most of them was happy because now the other things that I thought weren't quite above what we should be doing, as Hell's Angels. I said, I thought we were supposed to be the best of the best or the worst of the worst. And, some of you guys, you act like you're bottom feeders. You know what I mean? Why are you over there doing this with these people? These people ain't shit. Why? Oh, because I go over there and I bark and woof, woof, woof. And, I get a pile of shit this big. Okay. Well, that doesn't do me no good. And that's only for you. That's not for the rest of us. The rest of us are doing what we're doing for the whole. That's how I feel. Whatever we do for the whole. But that shit you guys are doing, you're using our insignia to intimidate lower levels of the motorcycle world, and they're getting away with it. And some guys are living by it. I mean, food money, gas money. Hey, I need a tire on my bike, motherfucker.
No, so they'll have people paying for everything for them.
Well, there are some guys, the club is whole. I love the club. I don't hate the club. Everybody thinks that I would do this podcast and that because I want to get back. No, I don't. I love the club. It made me sick to leave it after the work that I had done and accomplished. But they were tearing us down. They were accusing us of, stealing or doing this or doing that. And it never happened. But we can't plead our case if we can't talk to nobody. Okay. If we have no contact, and that's the rule, and I know the rules because I helped write some of them. If that's the game, then that's the game. And I don't think, it might have been 8 or 9 years before I had accidental contact with somebody.
Accidental contact?
Well, yeah, we were at the same place, same time, and I went, and this guy's still active.
Yeah.
And cordial. Hey, how you doing? I'm doing fine. How are you? How's everybody doing? Okay. Well, good seeing you. Yeah, hope all's good. Tell everybody I said hi. I've had 3 or 4 of those kind of little deals. No tension, no nothing. My tension was within Fresno itself. Some of the guys, and not all of them, just a few of them that were coloring outside the lines, if you ask me. They know better, and they did it anyway. And then when I know about it, I have to do something about it. I have to. And then I just said, hey, you know what? I don't agree with this, or this. I said, and some of you guys in here are fathers and have kids. And I said, and you don't see the wrongdoing of young kids being in and they're feeding them whatever. I said, hey, I don't want to be around that. That's something that if you choose that was on your own choice. And that was a very bad decision. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm telling you right now, I have a friend that I work out with. He's in the gym. He goes, well, we got blah, blah, blah under. And I said, are you shitting me? And I go, why? He goes, man, that fucking dude that owns the plates gets all these underage kids in there, blah, blah, blah. Right? And your guys are in there.
God.
And on occasion or two, we saw a rocker from a different town. And I'm going, whoa. So when I started sparking off, then I could tell what was coming next. So I talked to the guys down there in Santa Barbara. I said, look, you guys are just starting. What do you think? And there was no problem. You know, it ended up being good people down there, good folks, because they had split off from Ventura and went into Santa Barbara, and there was tension that way. And then when I split off from Fresno, went down there, we got more tension. But after you start talking to the powers that be, they pat you on the back, say, good for you, motherfucker. Good for you. Bigger and better. You guys are together. You guys will do what is supposed to be done. And I said, well, I thought that's what we were doing.
But then the other charter's still doing what they're doing, right?
Yeah. And I'm sure with the media being what it's been the last 3 or 4 years, you pretty much know what's going on in what town and who's jumping and who's not and what occurred allegedly at these premises, right? Well, once you put that in the, who am I going to speak to that's legitimate, that's going to want to donate for us to raise money? You know, you find your job that once I had it all done and set up, it was easy. I just recontact everybody every year. I give them, you know, they ate, drank, shirts, you name it. If they came to our event and they were a sponsor, put their name on the shirt, we take care of them, right? Because we want to see them next year. We want to see them the next year.
Yeah.
We don't want him going, they did what? And they did how? And then they say, oh my God, damn guys. And so they distance themselves. You know,
How did that happen for you though? You're in the charter, and
well,
what
once
was
I
your last
left,
day look like? What did your
see, like
last
I'm already out and shit is happening, but you know, you're out, but you know, fucking everybody in town's calling you, hey man. I go, man, I don't want to. I said, it's no longer my deal. It's somebody else's deal. And the way they do things, either you respect the way they do it or you stay at fucking home.
Yeah.
Right? But no, you guys want to be Billy Badass. You want to hang out, stuff a gun down your pants, ride around. And the minute that it comes time to do whatever, you motherfuckers are like chihuahuas at 100 miles an hour. Motherfuckers are scampering, fucking guns on the ground. I mean, you know what I mean? And I said, well, what good are they going to do me? They're not real. I'd rather have a small group of tight motherfuckers that they don't even have to call me. We just look at each other. And you know how they did the wink, wink, nod, nod. You know,
Yeah.
you know, that's how it works. And we're sitting in a room. That's how it works. I've seen a lot of that. And I said, okay, I understand completely. You know, and it's too bad that the charter I was in at the time had other aspirations than what I did.
Do you end up walking away, or do they tell you?
Oh no, I got voted out.
Can you walk me through that day?
I mean, basically, to this very second, and I have no reason to lie to nobody. I'm still not sure what transpired. I was never told. I was told that, well, you just got out of jail, you're on non-association, but yet you this and you that. And I said, well, I gave them all my paperwork. Okay, well then some rumor somewhere started, and then the powers that be and the substance they choose to ingest, you know, clouds one's judgment. Okay. And I, when I got called up, I was game. I'm fucking, I'm still on non-association. And they go, hey, but this. And I said, whoa, 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 fuck yeah, fuck you. This is what transpired. I got about 30 seconds to say something. And after that, it was over with, but then I've got certain individuals that thought it was made them fucking more powerful that I was gone. And they started going around, and because I'm a custom painter and I build bikes, I was fairly well known in my area, did great work, did a ton of work for members of this club. You know what I mean? You can look in probably 15, 20 clubhouses, and when they would have an anniversary, right? Let's say it's 25 years or 30 years Purdue. These guys want to go out and buy this 10-cent thing at a trophy shop. And I'm looking at them. I said, hey, homie, these guys have been here. Well, that's just your opinion. So I said, well, never mind. I would go paint a bad fucking ass fucking platform. I did it for probably a dozen to 15 charters, and they're still on the walls. So not everybody hates me.
Yeah.
But the few that do, hey, I'm probably better off for it. Out of sight, out of mind, fuck you. And I'm doing okay, even though, I probably was more popular and more outgoing than I was when I was a member. But now doing this, I have my health back. I got my driver's record and all the shit that they took away from me for being in that club. And because we rode, that's the way we ride. We go 100 miles an hour going grocery shopping. This is the way it fucking is. 2-foot defender at 100 miles an hour for 2 states. And that is what we do, and to change that would be selfish, and the guys some of the guys in my charter were getting selfish. They didn't want to attend this. They didn't want to spend money on that. They didn't want to be first class. I don't mean first class by the money you spend. I talk about first class about the effort that you would spend to do something, to give it to somebody special.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done it. And like I said, I heard from different people that I have contacted, they were in those clubhouses, and everything is exactly the way I left it with those people. They didn't fuck him, and everything's still intact, and I'm very proud of that. And it made me feel good. I don't, the rest of these guys, if they didn't want to do it, then that's on you. But someday, an elder member is going to fucking come up to you, and they're going to ask you something. And the problem with you guys is you're not going to have nothing to say in return. Why? First of all, you don't even know this guy. You never had or took the time to introduce yourself, sit down with them, have a beer, have a plate of food. I don't give a fuck what it is. Talking about motorcycles, whatever, but take that time because it's precious. The information that I got, you couldn't have paid for it in a million years. I got it for nothing, but from somebody that cared. And I cared enough to listen to him and try to carry myself that way as we were going, But towards the end there, towards when everything started going south, let's say about 8 years in, I just start not giving a fuck. These guys aren't helping. They're not going nowhere. They don't want to participate. They don't want to go talk to the powers that be. They don't want to keep earning this. They all say, oh, just because you make, no, this is earned every motherfucking day you go to sleep and every fucking day you wake up. You have to, what am I going to do today that at some point in time is going to benefit all of us? And I'm sure that I get, I'm sure I'd get accolades too. I'm not going to, but other people just care less about it. Well, what the fuck do we care? That's them. Let them take care of that.
Just what they can get, right? They
Right.
just want
And,
what they can
like,
get.
you know, members would die. And I have a company over in on the East Coast in Chicago that makes replica Sportster tanks, right?
Yeah.
And they're made out of ABS plastic. And what they are is they're urns. So on the bottom, it's all done, it's all legal, everything's safety. You can open up the bottom, put the members' urns in there, and then this thing's on rubber snubbers. You can put them in a display case, you can set them on the bar. But I did probably, I don't know, I probably did about 20 of those for citizens and members. If it was a member, I do the death head. I put all their information on there. And like in David Ortega was in my charter in Santa Barbara after he transferred Ventura. Well, he always wanted me to paint his bike. Bugs me. Mike, I'm out. And I said, David, I told you, anytime, anywhere, motherfucking 40-year member, 50-year member, are you kidding me? Sure, I'm going to fucking do it, with pride.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, he ends up, gets cancer real bad. He's on his dying deathbed, and I got to go to Europe. So he told the guys and said, hey, I want to talk to Mike for a while. So I went in there and I talked to him, and he let me know some critical things. And then the last thing he asked me, he goes, hey, will you paint my casket? And I go, what? He goes, look, dude, we all know I'm dying. I'll be dead in 4 or 5 days. He goes, you know it. I know it. That's why I wanted to talk to you. He goes, you couldn't ever paint my bike, but would you paint my casket? And I looked, I said, David, I'd do anything for you. There's no reason in the world absolutely not to do it. So what I do, go back to Fresno. I buy a casket out of Costco. And it's already silver based and cleared.
Yeah.
Costas got that, took it back to my house over on the coast. I painted it exactly the way I was going to do his bike. I painted his casket like that. Same colors, flames, all the shit. Mexican guy had to put a little, little Mexican thing on there, and even though, like he was a Ventura member way before him and I were together in the same charter. So when I painted it, I included Ventura's name and all their stuff on David's coffin, his casket. I went ahead and put Ventura, Hells Angels, and all that. He was a member of Santa Barbara, but I thought that was fitting for me to do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't all that right. Didn't seem like too many people that side was really impressed by my decision, to show them some love. So, and
So
on and on it goes.
Do you think you shouldn't have put that on there?
Well, no, I did what I did exactly what I should have done. Yeah. And I thought, because naturally there's a little friction, right? Because we started, I said, look, man, it's nothing to me. It's not money. It's time to design and do the death heads and do all that shit. So, I did it because I thought that would, I don't know, maybe smooth the ice a little bit. There, none of the nick back and forth, because every now and then, nick, yeah, and I don't like it. I don't like the shit between guys that are supposed to be brothers, and you don't have to all love each other, but goddamn, respect him because of what he's wearing. And like I said, I didn't get a big crowd thanking me when we buried him. Everybody in the world, and I'm not shitting you, because it's mandatory that we get one member from every charter in the world, right? That's usually how it works.
Yeah.
Everybody that came there told me, "You did that?" And I said, "Dude's 40 plus years. I mean, he's a fucking legend. And for me to have the opportunity, my charter, to do what we did, you know what I mean? Fuck, But hey, that's just it's picky uni bullshit. But me, when I do things with my hands and I do shit, not just because I'm a dope dealer and I got a fucking ton of money, I do shit with my hands because I don't have no money. But I can do this, and that's what I do. And I felt good about it. But oh well, hey, it's neither here nor there now. So
Do you feel like there's a lot of egos and big rivalries in the club like that?
it didn't used to be when I first came in, or when I first started and got to know everybody. But as of, say, I don't know, the last 7 to 10 years, things have definitely changed. And I mean all the way, personnel. The bad thing is the attrition rate. We have brothers that are, like Cisco and this guy, that all were the backbone, are now gone. And what I hope is those youngsters that were in that charter, they learned a lot from who they were under, because they couldn't have got no better education, Hell's Angel wise, than them individuals.
Yeah.
But they're dropping like flies, and therefore that super knowledgeable grand poobah that will if I don't know, I know who to go to, right? Grand poobah tell me, what's up and what's the correct thing to do. And you can't be ashamed to ask for help. But nowadays, it seems like everybody, they know better than the powers that have been. They know better. I'll do this. I don't need that. I heard it in Fresno. Something about, man, all you do is hang out with them old fuddy-duddies. And I went, oh my God. I mean, that just in itself, I was probably obligated to sock him in the eye. I mean, I don't know. Probably
Get the peace.
You know what I mean? I don't know, I'm not the toughest guy in the world, but I said, hey man, we're going to be shit out of luck unless guys like me, guys like Pee Wee, some of the guys that are on all these, Mooch, all these guys, I don't care what, I don't have a thing about club no more. I don't. I meet people from all, and I say, okay, but guys like Mooch that educate themselves and did the things they do, and then they turn around and educate theirs. Now we got, it's one thing, okay, everybody thinks thugging. Well, that came natural to most everybody in the club. It seemed like to me, everybody was straddling the line on criminality, but then the educated guys started coming in, and the educated guys started having talks, and the educated guys started having one-on-ones with you. Well,
that's why it's important. It's important to get your story out.
And I'm telling you, to this very day, I still have people that ask me in a hypothetical situation, what do you think? And I tell them what I think. I said, I'm not the gossip. I'm just telling you what I think in certain situations is that this, and, not be so heavy-handed, not be so fast to kick a motherfucker under the bus and make sure he don't get back up. I thought, like, this guy's having a hard time, or he's, regardless of his marriage, substance abuse, or whatever. If a guy's going through it, You don't hit him that one more time to seal his fate. You don't hit him that one more time to seal his fate. You snatch him up. You know he's worth it. Save his ass and let's move on. You know, but I felt none of that. You know, and like I said, the last 2 years of my active membership, I just felt like if it wasn't for the guys from out of town, I wouldn't have cared about it. But coming back to town and just being there and knowing that some of the individuals just didn't give a. They want to do this, they want to do that. Fuck, tradition be damned. You know what I mean? The lines that we draw, we do that for a reason. Even though we're Hell's Angels, we need to check ourselves every now and then. And I'm one of those guys that needs constant supervision.
Do you think some of these guys watch too much Sons of Anarchy and they want to be Jax Teller and?
Okay, well, I would think that in the last since that came out, okay, now what's his name? What's the guy's name? The producer, the director,
Kurt Sutter.
Okay, well, Kurt, when all this was in the make, in the thought process, he had this show in mind, and he said he's not going to get a good feel of it by me just telling him. So Oakland invites him to New Year's or whatever, I'm pretty sure it was New Year's. In other words, everybody knows you're coming. Everybody knows this, but we're not going to hold on to your belt loop and hold your hand. This is what you wanted to know about. So once you walk through that doorway, it's on, because we're partying. We're not holding school. We're partying. We're having a good time. We get to see people that we never get to see, so there it is. And I believe, if I'm correct, that he had went to, I think he went to like Sons of Silence, maybe the Banditos, a few other clubs, because of geographics in different way. Because, California Hells Angels are, they're just way different. They're a different animal, and that's just the way it is, And then, so he went to like your Midwest, your East Coast. He got a feel of what was going on, and they came up with that show. I don't know. When I was active, I kind of made fun of it because I didn't really watch it. But then I actually started watching it, and I started looking who was in there. I start seeing Rusty. I start seeing DL. I see Chuck. I see Sonny. I start seeing guys that, I'm sure money's, you get compensated and all that, but pushing our way of life and our way of doing things and having it being portrayed by these certain actors, it was all right. I mean, to tell you the truth, I watched the Mayans too. I mean, not just because I wanted to know. I was curious, because I've always been taught that knowledge is a weapon. And I want to be as knowledgeable as I can. I want to see their perspective. I want to see who they have there. I want to see the situations that they create and go into and what they do about it. Some are true to life and some are calm down. And, I'm sure they're not going to see the worst of the worst. Nobody wants to see that because that's personal between us and whoever, but yeah, I thought that them putting it out there and not making up shit. In other words, their technical information, their knowledge came from hanging around those different clubs.
Yeah.
And so when he created a certain episode, he'd actually probably had some information from another club that, like, for instance, and then he played on it, and I think that, pretty much everybody that's ever came to me, they say who it was made up after. That's their opinion. But I say, well, no. I mean, yeah, we were a major part. Well, I'm sure we might have been a little bit more friendly and open because Sonny had worked with all these guys before. So anyway, but they got a little bit of everybody. And when he did an episode, he put a little bit of everybody in there.
Yeah.
So I don't have nothing to say bad about it. Good for them guys. They got to make some money. They got to get in the shadow, and they still working with active members doing things that they normally would not do.
Definitely different for them to be doing
You know what I mean? Who's going to see so and so on a TV show going like what? But if you watch and you see the content and you see how it is moving along, it's not as bad as you think. It was entertainment, and I think it was basically right on.
How has your life been ever since you left the club?
The first, say, 2 or 3 years is pretty fucked up because you've got people, the club's still there. And regardless if you see them all that much, what they have to say is circulating in my area, in where I live and was born and raised. And
so you hear things, right?
Oh, it seems like somebody made it a point to call me to tell me, just to make me feel like, and I just go, hey, so once I kind of got over the initial bull of what, because I know myself what I did and what I didn't do. And I think everybody knew that I was a club man through and through. And, and at the end, you start drinking and taking the pills and just don't give a f. That was my downfall. I shouldn't have looked for that way to make it go away. I should have went and talked to somebody of higher stature, and then they would have guided me the way I should have gone. But I wasn't getting any kind of love in Fresno. And my biggest thing is because when you do 5 years, 11 months, and 11 days, and you complete the task, and the reward was that patch, okay? And then to have individuals that took absolutely no part in that 5 years, and to discard me like I was a piece of, and they know I can't say nothing back to anybody. I can't gather the troops. I can't get my posse and say, hey, man, that's not. And then as time went on, I started thinking about it, and I go, look, all I'm going to do is I might get the truth brought out. I might get this, but somewhere along this mess, I'm going to get Hell's Angels fighting each other. Somebody's not going to like it. And somebody's, and somehow, some way that I may stir the and become like a sideshow to the club. And I just didn't feel I fit that. And I just took the embarrassment, the punishment, the humiliation, whatever you want to call it. I took it and I ran with it. Now, there was guys running around telling people in town they better not go to my shop. They better not be seen at my shop working on their bikes or painting their bikes. And then a lot of these people are citizens, man. They're not us. They're not gangsters. They're not nothing. They're just guys that run around, and the next thing you know, they got some idiot over here telling them, hey, mother, this guy this and this guy did that. And they go, wait a minute, I know him. There's no way in the fucking world. But, what are they going to do?
So they're telling citizens not to talk to you.
Citizens that were like my customers. They were telling guys outside the charter things. When it would come to me, I'd get lose my temper. And that's one thing it took me a long time to get rid of is I don't give a what you say. Because if you're not saying it to me, you're scared. Okay. If you're not coming up to me and getting on here, talking to me directly and say, you blah, 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 what's your side of the story? Then I'm not afraid of you. You're afraid of me. You're afraid of what I know and I don't say. It's not my business. I mean, I don't, some things, if it's damn sure wrong, I'll bring it up. But Pee Wee brought something up the other day when everybody was talking. He goes, man, do you get mad? Well, everybody is, and I'm working with one or two that still are. But what I'm saying is that 5 years, 11 months, and 11 days that I mean, you can't believe what you've done, what you've accomplished, what you've done out of the middle of nowhere. I mean, I went to Alaska 5 or 6 times. And if you think that's some kind of goddamn Florida vacation, you're wrong. But we did it. And the first time that we went out there, I took my vice president Hank up there with me. We were the only two guys in the United States to go up there on their anniversary party. And they do what they call the frozen few run. So we get up there and they're going, you're it? They looked at all the flight schedules and all that, and they go, you're it? I go, well, it don't matter. We don't need help. We're used to being the underdog. So whatever needs to be done, spill and we'll get it done. Well, they had a prospect, a third charter starting in Alaska. And I forgot which town because they had Anchorage and Fairbanks. And we were in Fairbanks. Anyway, these guys come up. They don't ride their bikes. Which, okay, if it was up weather, maybe should have left early. That's
Is it snowing? Is it snowing at the time?
Well, and this is New Year's.
Oh,
so, yeah, it's up. But I rode.
You rode your bike. You rode your bike
there for us. So when the run came up, we didn't get no car. We grabbed a bike and we ran. And I'll tell you something. I was on the ground so many times I busted my tailbone. But I'll tell you what. It was the funnest experience to put that under your belt and say, yeah, motherfucker, ride an FXR when it's 25 below and you're going down. And you know what I mean? It's something to say that I did. It's like being in the service when you accomplish things that you didn't think you could do. I'm all proud of it. Well, this other charter was up there. They're all prospects. They all come up there in one of them 15 passengers, air conditioning, barbecue heater, bar, all that in one of these coaches, right? And they parked on the property up there where the clubhouse was. Well, me and Hank, we basically stayed outside for 3 days. We ate, we did this, and after they got done with their meeting, then it was on. But they kept looking for this other charter. Mike, where are them guys at? And I says, man, all I know is that you gave us this area, and for two of us, that's a lot of area to cover. So we don't get to see much of anybody else. But anyway, these guys had that van in the back of the property back there, and they're the whole charter's in this mother. Got all the heaters, defrosters, you name it. They're all in there, huddled up, right? And Dale tells me, go find those motherfuckers. I said, okay. So I go find them. And then I say, okay, I go back clubhouse. I said, well, I found them. They're all in their van and they're all huddled up. And there he goes, none of them guys, participating. I go, well, if they're not in the clubhouse helping, they damn sure ain't helping us. He tells you, Mike, go back there and get all them guys, bring them to the clubhouse. Within a half an hour, they were no more. Get them out of here. And I said, no problem.
Oh, so they didn't make the cut.
No, they didn't make it 20 more minutes.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because they told me, hey, Mike, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay. And it was just me and Hank, and we didn't have no problem with it. There's how many guys in there? About 8 or 9? I don't give a fuck. I know if you're in there doing this, you got to be a pussy. You know what I mean?
100%.
We're from Fresno where it's 120 degrees and we're sitting out there at 20 below and you motherfuckers live up here. And
Yeah, and you're on a run.
And these guys are it was like a 35-year anniversary, something real major.
Yeah.
So I don't care if you get frostbite, motherfuckers, stand there. You live here, you should know. I was stationed up there, so I knew just how to do cold weather. I told Hank we was set. And these motherfuckers, so I say, hey. So yeah, I had another the most eye-awakening situation. We were at one of our monthly meetings and we had a charter that wanted to start up in Vegas. And we already had a couple charters, with Charlie and all them guys in Nevada. There was guys in Nevada. And then these guys come up and they said, well, we're going to be in whatever. So a very prominent member of our club jumped on his motorcycle and went into Vegas. And the closest guy to Vegas was 2 hours away. So this member called him up, said, I'm here. I just want to check you guys out, see what's up, see what you got going. And, oh, well, man, it's going to take me 2-3 hours to get there because I live in. He goes, wait a minute. Who in the is in Las Vegas? Right? Well, pretty much everybody lives, Anyway, they called these particular individuals in. This particular individual asked them, well, I went there, and I want to know where all y'all was. Because let's say, hypothetically speaking, I needed help, or I needed this, or I was broke down, or I had whatever happening. 5 minutes, yeah. 10 minutes, okay. But in a complete different zip code and area code, okay, well, all I know is some people came out that door. They didn't look too good. And then the boss of the room came out and snatched them up to them get back inside. And that was the last these guys, they went home with nothing, right? So I'm sitting there and, we're getting close. So I don't know what's going on. I'm watching all my P's and Q's. So I go inside and we all stand there in my charter and I'm getting ready to do my thing. And I look down and there's a puddle of a certain liquid substance that was red. Was a pretty good pool, right? And I look down at my shoes and I'm wading in the right?
Yeah.
So the first word out of somebody's mouth is dead serious. Says, Mike, you live in Fresno, don't you? And I said, born and raised, every one of us here, we run Fresno. You guys should know that because when you guys come into town, we got it going on. He goes, I just thought I'd say that in front of God and everybody. You live in Fresno, right? You run Fresno, right? And I said, yes, we do. Okay. And that was that. And I told the guys, look down. Tell me that isn't a reminder. Tell a lie, see what happens.
So he basically lied and said he lived in this area, but he didn't.
The charter. They're going to build a charter here, right? And this, you'd always got one guy or two guys in the charter that on the streets, you might be able to hold your own amongst the citizens and amongst the minions in the motorcycle world there. But now that you stepped into this, there's no room, you couldn't slide a fucking credit card in the room that you got. You know what I mean? In other
Yeah.
words, don't even bother. Just get your ass kicked and tell the truth. Right. But it was embarrassing. And plus, that woke up everybody in the room as to you better pay attention to these guys and what they're saying, because we were efficient. I mean, 5 years, 11 months, 11 days, every month that report was there. Financial reports, anything to do, it was all printed out. I had however many charters was in California then, or the West Coast. They all had copies. I don't want to sit here and tell the story 50 times. So I would make up the expense report. I would make up this. I would do that and this and that. And I would make up one for every charter. And then each guy could just sit there as a representative and go over it and read it as we go. Because like we're doing here, eventually you get tired of talking, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, this is a subject matter that was, it was dear to me. It still is, I wish things would have been different, but my life is like 1000% opposite than what it was. I don't get upset. I don't get things. I don't bark all the time. When I was doing that, I barked, bark, 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 bark. It's like a dog on a chain, because I wanted everything efficient. When things didn't work right, you make us look bad, you idiots. Get off your ass and be who you're supposed to be. In other words, earn this, motherfucker. And a lot of guys weren't in the same mode. I'm sure I was overdriven. I was over.
It's good to be like that.
Well, in my case, I thought it was, but that was me personally. Now, a lot of other guys were chill and they ran everything with an iron fist and they got away with it. They did well. And I just couldn't grasp that. I want to put a foot in your ass or something, but yeah. And then, like I said, I talked to Charlie. He goes, hey, out of all this shit, and being mad, nah, because ain't nobody got a pot to piss in. None of them motherfuckers stand in front of me right now. And the same way I feel. But, our integrity, our honor, and all the shit that I have tattooed on my chest, loyalty, strength, and honor. Okay, that's what we're about. You took that from me, and you took it from me under pretexts that didn't occur. They were, I would say, 90% made up by a group of individuals that wanted me out of the way.
Yeah.
Just like Pee Wee. I mean, come on, the guy, where don't you see him? He bodyguards to the movie stars. He truck drives for the movie company. So he's always on these sets. He's meeting good people, which is good for us, and he's laughing, joking, and they love him. And therefore they love Hell's Angels.
Yeah.
That's how this works. So if we're good at what we do, people will love us, and we don't even meet these yet, and they took that from us. They made me look like, for a guy that was born and raised, I did 4 years in the military. I got out. I did this. I stuck to my guns when I was prospect. I did all the things that were expected of me. And in 1 second, you kicked me in the face. You threw dog shit on me, kicked me underneath the bus. You did all you could to make me not want to ever even think about them. Nothing but hate. And it took me a while. It's just like when I first talked to Mooch the first time. I told him, brother, I'm going to tell you right now, I never in a million years thought that I would get on the phone, call you up, and I was seeing his podcast, and I was always complimenting him about his delivery, his education, his knowledge, not just, hey, man, not he didn't talk like that.
Yeah.
When he talked, I listened. So I had to tell him so, and I said, man, bro, I just never thought that this would ever in a million years that we would be having a friendly chat.
Never.
And still to this very day, I have about 45 minutes from me in Spokane. There's an ex pagan there. He has a tattoo shop. You probably know him anyway.
Yeah, popcorn, right?
I don't know his nickname. John, is that his name?
Yeah, John with the tattoos on his face.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, when I moved up here, I made it a point, like Rick and I were friends in Spokane, but I'm no longer a member. But I wanted people to know that I was here. I wasn't going to kind of creep in and say blah, blah, blah. So I knew people that knew everybody. So I said, do me a favor. I want you to tell every one of them guys that I'm here. There's no issues, no trouble, no nothing. I'm doing it for my health and my peace of mind. So just tell them I'm here. Got any problems? Call me up. I'll be there in 2 seconds. Then I end up meeting other ex-members. I met that guy, John, and, there's more things going on. And I can finally have a conversation with somebody that I'm not thinking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel, man, to get that kind of relief about maybe I shouldn't hate somebody that doesn't deserve my hate. When I talked to Mooch, it was gone. I mean, within seconds, it was gone. I said, man, this dude, but I had never met anybody. I was never allowed to talk, nor did I want to. But now that I have, man, I got nothing but love for that guy, his intelligence, the education that he sought to be who he is, and anything that he has something to do with. I think that I would be comfortable with joining in with him.
Yeah.
I met, I'm up in the mountains, man. I'm 5 minutes from a ski resort, but I'm in the most flawless place you could be. I'm in a place, it's in a valley, right? So all we have up here is the mountain taverns, bars, mountain life.
Yeah.
So I go up to this place I'd never been to, and I got a friend here that's hanging around the club. So anyway, I'm running around. He's showing me everything. So I walked into this place. Maybe about 60 miles from Canada, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't have got no deeper in the, so I pull up, get off the bikes, we go in there. Soon as I walk in the door, the dude that's sitting here, I knew was a Mongol. I've seen it long enough, did this, and he's sitting there, and I started for a second, and John goes, I said, go tell him to come over and talk to me. Ask him if he has a minute. So sure as shit, he's an ex-member out of Southern California, and we talked, had each other beer. I've seen him 2 or 3 times since then, and hey, what's up, white boy? And big hug, and no, that I fucking, none of that shit. When he talked to me, he spoke with nothing but respect. I told him I was from Fresno, and he goes, ooh, they know. We all know Fresno is just a fucking haven for fucking mental illness. It seems like every gangster.
A lot of these guys are the same types of people. They just wear a different patch, and you're
exactly
like,
because
you're made to hate. Yeah, you're made to hate these people, right?
And I do. And like that guy, I said, we've run into each other. I met him about a year ago. I probably ran into him 5 or 6 times. And every time I run into him, it's nothing but good. But then I heard through the grapevine that somebody else was giving him a bad time at the place where we go and have a beer and eat food. And I told him, I said, hey, let me know. I'm not that I would jump up and this and that and the other, but I said, I'd like to be knowledgeable of who's a shithead up here and doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. Because obviously he would respect at least that you put your time in, you did this, and you obviously had to go through the bullshit. It's obvious.
Yeah.
You guys that sit back in here and you're, like I said, watch that TV show and this and that. Well, all that's just, that's a wash. This is a real deal. Go up there and shake the guy's hand, buy him a beer, and say, hey, what's up? And this guy was from Long Beach, so he was in the thick of shit, and I knew that, so I'm still friends with him. I see him, hey, what's up? Have a beer. You wanted something to eat? But no, we just had a beer, bullshit, look at each other's bikes, and that's it. No, no, no. I don't even get my heart Twitter pated. Before I do that, man, adrenaline's gushing out of my ears, and it's just what you do. All of us are like that. You just all of a sudden, situation has changed. So now my body's changing and my mind is changing. Here we go again.
So now the internet is a huge thing now, and I see a
Yeah.
lot of members posting pictures and different things online. There's a lot of drama going on out there with people arguing online with each other and things like that. Do you think the internet is going to be a problem with these clubs? And was it ever a rule not to go on the internet and post
Well,
pictures and where you're at
what
and things like that?
what we did, what we did was it was a rule: no live TV interviews, no private meetings with any law enforcement about anything unless it was an event that you're trying to get the logistics all taken care of, right? That's understandable. That's business. Okay. But as far as chit chatting and hey, how's your day? How's the wife and kids? No, 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 no. And then we made a rule say, look, if you want to do something and the club's involved, you got to bring it to the powers that be and let the membership go over it and see if it's a good or a bad idea. Until Sonny went to the club and asked about his book and the movie, the club agreed to it. The contract was explained, the amounts that everybody was getting and whose everybody's role was. We had an attorney, we have an entertainment attorney, we have all these people, and they're all available to each and every one of us because we're members of that corporation, right? And Sonny made his deal. He was given 10 years to make the movie and write the book. So it took him about 8, but there was some grumbling, like as time went by and things had changed, atmospheres and peoples and all this stuff, you started noticing people getting a little upset about it. And some were very vocal. And I said, wait a minute. I said, guys, I'm on the board of the corporation and all that shit. I understood the contract. I read it over and over and over again. I seen what was given and the amounts that were said, but you had 10 years to complete your mission. After that, you have to rehash the issue. So Sonny went ahead and went with what was already in writing, and some people had an issue with it, and usually, how it is, it's fucking money first, ego, power, those things all come into play, and I know they're temporary and some guys get over it, but for a while there, and I just couldn't understand it. I said, he's not going to do some kind of hokey doke Tom and Jerry cartoon. You understand? I mean, and then there was issues about our patch being shown. And then there was issues about active members wearing another patch. Okay. All these things had to be hashed out, and in the end, you could see who was on there, who, and I don't think that, well, I mean, I didn't follow it that close, but I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything that was an embarrassment to the club.
I think only one of those guys is still in the club that was on that show. Matter of fact, maybe not even any of them.
Let's see.
DL, right? Is DL still in the club? Nope. Then every single person that was on Sunday
DL had
Morning,
other things going. DL, and then
Rusty's not in the club no more.
but he's close enough to he
Zito.
knows. He knows. Uh, DL, I don't know, it was a couple 3 or 4 years into the program. DL had a life changing, altering thing. His one of his son passed away
It's terrible.
in the middle of all this, right? And I was very good friends with DL. We traveled a lot in Europe. He's just one of them guys. You just can't help but like him, but you can guarantee you asked him anything, didn't have to look back and see, you consider it done. And he was that guy. And him and we got two pit bulls. I had a breeder in Fresno. I got one for him, one for me. And, he was just one of those guys that was very well spoken. He was a ghostwriter for a hot rod magazine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He had his hands in a few things before all that other shit happened. And then when he started with them, he was just doing the technical advisory, and then it wasn't soon after that. And then, okay, now he's got guys that he knows personally that would fit in good with the agenda in that show. And obviously they were there. I mean, what bad are you going to say about Rusty or fucking Sonny or Chuck? Them guys were knowledgeable. It was a job. And if you were going to get the poop, why would you not want it from the that absolutely positively knew? And they also knew the boundaries. Okay, we'll go into this, but don't step over that line. And everybody knew that. Don't do it, because then our relationship's going to change,
Were you in the club when Sonny passed? Were you in the club when Sonny passed?
No.
What do you think about him not being buried as a Hell's Angel?
I mean, I don't know that to be true or not true. All I know is I had somebody go there and videotape that, and I heard people speaking. And so, I mean, in my opinion, he was buried a Hell's Angel. Some people said that Chuck was kicked out. Some people wanted this done. I mean, I hear so much, and I look and I go, well, number one is we shouldn't be listening to none of that crap anyway. Because, in your business, you got the shady side of your guys, and some of them I talk to, and the ones that did call me, and I just said, hey, look, I don't care what you do as long as you tell the truth. Okay? If you tell the truth and you want both sides of the stories, then get both sides before you get on there and start chirping. Because, like I said, we don't all love each other. And if there's some guys that could throw a stick in your spokes, they would.
Yeah, of course.
To be nice about it, yeah, they would.
Yeah.
If given the opportunity, yeah, you motherfucker. I mean, it's just the way it is. And I'm sure because, I'm pretty outspoken. When I was into it, I wanted to have my say. I saw things that were wrong. Hey, we can make it better doing this. When I revamped the financial system of the club, what I did, the two very prominent members, they said, we want you to do this. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, if we ask you to do something that's for the club, would you do it? And I just looked at him. I said, well, look, if it's for the benefit of this club and it's not ignorant, you're not going to just send me out with a rag over my eyes. He goes, and I said, well, sure, I'm game. And I've got maybe a year in, right? So I said, well, what is it you want? None of your fucking business. Get the fuck out of here. Right? I'm a member.
Yeah.
Right? So we go to the meeting, and we had a guy in another city that vacated the treasury. You know, so whatever transpired, we needed a treasury, we needed this, we needed that. So I'm just sitting there, and I don't got to worry about nothing. You usually got to be in the club 5 years, before you assume that kind of responsibility. Next thing I know, these two guys stand up and they said, we want him to do this, and we want him to do it right now. And they said, well, we got to vote. So they did a vote. So I left there as a new member year in the club as the CFO of the West Coast.
So you're the president and you're the CFO.
Yeah.
A year into it.
And I'm going like, oh, I'm just getting my feet wet, right? So then I went to the powers that be that, I trusted. I said, well, how do you, he goes, I'm going to tell you something right now. It's your job. You do it as you see fit, but always keep us in mind. We got to be informed. We got to have, everything's got to be transparent. Everything's got to be in writing. Everything that you do, make sure you make everybody happy. I said, okay. So what I did was, I didn't like the idea of the cash because it kept getting confiscated. So then I went to a former IRS agent. I went to the president of a bank. I went to 4 entities that had to do with finances. So I told them, here's my job. And I just said CFO, HAMC, and whatever. It went over their head for a minute, and then it became. So I said, look, I don't want them in these. I don't want them to be able to get in here. I don't want anything. I want it just us. So after I talked to each one of these investigators and these agents, they said, look, I want you to open up accounts that are non-interest bearing. In other words, you're storing money, and that's it. Okay, well, in our club, we have our dues, which helps with the West Coast shit. We have attorney fees that get shared amongst the membership. We have a world run and a USA run that funds are separate than anything. So what I did was I set up 4 non-interest accounts, and I incorporated in Nevada with the help of an Oakland member who transferred to Nevada, made us the corporation, made me a corporate officer in the state of Nevada. And in the state of Nevada, there is no corporation lose. Why? Prostitution, houses, okay? All that came into play. They asked me, I said, I just want to store some money so when somebody's got to go somewhere, I take the money from here and not rob Peter.
Yeah, but they need you to get the money, right?
Yes.
So what about what if they?
I need to go on a flight. You need to get somewhere. Give me all your information. I got all the dates. Go to the airport, pick up your ticket. Done deal. Oh, by the way, in the mail, there's going to be your expenses. You got a per diem. If you're there 5 days, $100 a day. Okay, so I make sure they had their money. And if guys could afford it, then they would just bring me back and I just reimburse them in cash. But if we needed to get things done, I did everything by that credit card or debit card. Each account was for each occasion. I don't take out of a USA run to send a guy to a funeral, right?
Yeah.
It's not proper and it's not understandable by most. When I came back to the club and told them I'd put everything in banks and I did that, I didn't think I was going to make it out of the building. I'm telling you, I sat there and they go, you did what, mother? I said, well, you coffee can motherfucker. You guys are so used to being coffee cans in the backyard. This is the new way. And I went to these individuals who were the best at what they did, and I got it from the horse's mouth. As long as you don't collect interest, as long as that, and what you're doing is, and I'd explain to them, I said, if somebody dies in Europe, I got to get them a plane ticket. I got to get them, we got to get a wreath. And these are the things that are part of the job. So when we go over there, we, from the West Coast, United States, here's a wreath, here's our representative, and everything's good, right? We go to USA, the money's there. I call up, I do everything by credit card. We own Walmart, we own liquor stores, we own everything. And then I did a deal with the liquor store. I tell him, I said, he goes, well, how much you think you're going to spend? I said, right off the get-go, 15 grand to get to you to fill my list. I said, now, if we don't open any of that liquor, you're going to buy it back from me. And they did. We get done, they come to the run side. As long as everything was not open, cases, the cases could be wet.
Yeah.
The boxes from being in ice, whatever the fuck, didn't care. As long as the cans or the bottles or whatever were in there, as long as the liquor bottles were all intact with their thing on it, they took everything back, paid me back in cash.
That's smart, because some people want to think of little things like that.
But that's what I'm saying. This is my opinion. If you're asking me who I'm going to grab into my charter right now, they're going to be one, at least computer savvy, super bad motherfucker. So that's what this world is turning into. So we got to be in with the people that we compete with. Second, of course, you're going to have guys that are, their specialty is physicality. Okay, we'll put it that way. And then, but you want everybody to be thinking on their feet, because when Joe Fed comes blasting and runs you off the road, and they all got you surrounded and you're hemmed up, 1, 2, 3, go. You better know what you're going to say or not say. Blah blah blah. You're going to know everything right then and there because you've already thought this out. If I ever get jammed by these motherfuckers, fuck them. Do we have permission to do this? No, you don't. Lay down on the cement. Fuck you. You lay down on the cement. 130 degrees down there. Fuck you. You lay on it. And that's why, I wasn't all the favorite of law enforcement, because I didn't like you. You've done things to me and my brothers and other friends that I don't consider to be necessary, But anyway.
We could go on we could keep going and
going. Take a break. We can do this anytime. I'm not going anywhere.
We'll do this more. I got a lot of questions for you, so we'll do another one.
And like I said,
we'll make this a whole series.
I'm just a guy. Okay, look, there are some people on here that have, not here, but on other sites where maybe they don't have a problem with naming individuals and things that may or may not have occurred. And in my thinking, this is my opinion, I don't give a f if he is dead. I don't care if he's long gone. He got mamas, grandmas, grandkids, uncles, aunts. You don't want to have them looking, oh, my uncle's one, and then all of a sudden you hear that he was involved in something that might or might not have been questionable. Okay, yeah. I don't agree with that. I believe that, hey, whatever the fun we had or whatever the incident, you can skim around the incident, and I'm sure you, being a smart guy, can figure out and read between the lines. You don't need me to say, hey, on June 19th, me and Joe Blow got in the car and da-da-da.
No,
okay.
He's dead. On this sunny afternoon, right? Me and this guy.
Well, it does matter to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you want to talk about me having fun with Pee Wee and this and that, I probably have 100 instances with Pee Wee that just have you rolling. I don't think they'd be appropriate sometimes for this, because nobody wants to hear this. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I say, as long as we keep it like that,
Yeah.
and I don't care what club you're in. When we meet face to face, you like me, okay. If you don't, you don't. And I'm doing what I do because I'm looking forward to meeting people that I once disliked at a great deal. I mean, now I can sit there and shake your hand and give you a hug, have a beer, and wasn't that a crazy ride? You know what I mean? And then, like 99% of the people, when I tell them when the prospects in California start bitching and moaning, well, I should be membered by now, they say, go talk to Mike from Fresno, would you? You want to talk about a long time? Go talk to him. He'll tell you. So they come up to me and I go, 5 years, 11 months, 11 days. And they look at me and goes, you got to be kidding. What'd you do wrong? Nothing. That's how long it takes you to know how to run things as a member. That's not, you're not going to pick up this handbook and go, oh, okay. That's not the way it works. And a lot of the older members, because of informants and this and that, they're not all that suave to start talking to strangers, after they see you for 5 or 6 years, then everything changes. Once they know you're solid and your feet are planted, then, hey, then we're good. But as coming up, you're on your own. You do things as you see fit. You do it right. If you don't know, then you ask somebody that does know. Don't let it just get swept under the rug. Don't do it because it'll come back to haunt you sooner or later.
Yeah.
But anyway,
let's set this up again.
I hope I get along with just about everybody. The East Coast guys, I had some to do with, but the West Coast guys, there ain't nobody that doesn't know me, or we haven't been together doing whatever. Traveling the world. We've been all over the world doing shit, and I loved it. And I trusted them guys for the most part. But as you get going in this club, you find out there's some shitheads, and it wasn't all that obvious. You know what I mean?
Things are changing, man. Things are changing now.
But if I think, like I said, if I was to do it again and I had a charter that knowing what I know, this is how we're going to set up. And it's not going to be, we got to be the baddest. No, we're going to be the quietest doing what we do, and we're still going to be doing it. It's just, it ain't going to be on Channel 30 News and fucking everybody's podcast and all that shit. Well, them guys just went and all 10 of them got arrested because they pulled into a gas station. Oh, fuck me. If you guys can't think a little bit more, take 5 minutes, go down the street, think about it for a minute. Think about it just for a minute. One or two guys, not 10. Anyway, teach his own.
If you like this show, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. And if you don't like this show, too bad. Start your own podcast. Peace.